So first, I want to welcome all of the Commune community to our first ever webinar with my dear, dear friend, old friend, Gabby Bernstein, who I've known for quite some time. We've had some really fun experiences, including driving around Brooklyn looking at real estate together.
Real estate that we never ever went after. You moved to LA, I moved to.
It didn't matter because what it more was about building a connection with you, and since then we've traveled to different mountainsides for spiritual and yoga events, and we've sat on a couple of panels together, and you've been an incredible supporter from the beginning. When we opened up Wildest Hollywood, I think you were the first person to say, "I'm in, and I'll do an event with you." So you've always been a great supporter, and I've always just been incredibly grateful to have you as a friend, and I look forward to a beautiful future together and many Gabinars.
Right back at you, man. Right back at you. And I love that we're having the Gabinar right now.
Yes. So for the Commune community that doesn't know, that's been living under a rock, that doesn't know who Gabby is, she's a prolific author, written many, many influential books in the spiritual space, including The Judgment Detox. I think that's the most recent one. But The Universe Has Your Back, Miracles Now, Adding More Ink to Your Life, Spirit Junkie. There's probably other ones.
Got it, yeah. Super Attractor coming out.
That's right. Super Attractor this fall, right? In September.
Yeah. Somehow I wrote 7 books. I don't know. And today I was driving home from the gym and I was like, I have to write a book about this. And I have to write a book about this. And I started listing all the books, even wanting to write a book about sleep, wanting to write a book about trauma and conception. And I'm like, it's a good problem to have though.
Yeah. Well, fortunately you have a rich, long life ahead of you.
Yes.
As a author and also as a new mother, congratulations.
Thank you.
On that front. I'm super proud of you for pulling that off.
Mm-hmm.
I know that was a journey for you. And also, obviously, the producer of some transformational online courses, including the Spirit Junkie Masterclass that we'll be talking about today. And, I know that aside from being a spiritual teacher, you're also a yoga teacher. And heavily influenced and studied in Kundalini yoga. And there was a guy, a curious gentleman named Yogi Bhajan that came to, I think, New Mexico, but essentially brought Kundalini yoga to the West. And he said, "I'm not here to create disciples. I'm here to create teachers." And I've heard you say that notion was been a kind of a central mission for you.
Yeah, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in my 200-hour Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher training, and we were watching some Yogi Bhajan videos, and I heard that quote. And it was like, it shook me. I knew that was, because at the time I had been almost over a decade at that time teaching spiritual principles, writing spiritual books. But I hadn't really thought about the concept that I was here to create teachers, even though it was probably happening in the background, inspiring people to go inspire others. But it wasn't part of my intention day to day when I wrote my books or when I created courses or put together trainings. And it actually spawned one of the greatest contributions I think I bring to my career and to others is my Spirit Junkie Masterclass training, because it was in that moment that I sat there and I said to myself, I am not here just to get people on their spiritual path. I'm here to help them help others get onto their spiritual path.
Yeah. And that's, part of this tradition of being a teacher is passing that knowledge down from generation to generation. And I think it's easy for spiritual teachers and life coaches to go through and be helping people with their issues and find their path, their spiritual path and the way to enlightenment, but actually being able to create and empower people to fulfill their greatest potential as teachers, the effect and the impact that has in the universe multiplies, 1,000x what you're doing. So that was a pivotal moment that kind of bent the arc of your life.
Yeah, and Yogi Bhajan talked a lot about the Piscean age, which was when it was all about the individual leader and the person with the microphone at the podium. But in this Aquarian age, it's about the we. It's about the commune, really, and coming together. And even just from a social media standpoint, we are all the media now. We all have a platform now. And there's no boundary or barrier to having your message and your authentic story be heard. There's, you don't have to wait for Oprah to have you on her show, right?
Right.
So
it's helpful to have some keys to unlock some of the mysteries, and I think that that's what you do such a great job at articulating. And there's so many different elements to being a teacher, stepping into your purpose, having the confidence, losing the fear. A lot of that is very personal. And then there's the more business elements of it, how to become an author, how to actually create an online course, how do you approach public speaking, how do you deal with money. And you, in the Spirit Junkie Masterclass, you do such an amazing job at encompassing all of those elements of being a teacher. And I haven't seen any other program like that can offer sort of this personal development piece on one side and the professional development piece on the other side.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it, because it's like there's a lot of trainings out there that are really business oriented or really personal growth oriented. This is both. This is equal parts personal growth. And what I started to notice was my readers were coming back and back to my lectures or writing in or commenting in the audiences, and they were saying things like, I feel called to share this work, but I don't know how. Or I feel called to heal and help serve, but I don't know how. Or I'm a lawyer and I want to bring more mindful practices into my career, but I don't know how. And it was clear to me that I've had to sort of take on this responsibility of being able to show up for these people and give them the guidance to show up for themselves in their purpose-driven work, and to live that purpose, and to, as we say, to inspire others by doing what inspires them. And that was what has been the driving force of my life. And my prayer is that everyone can feel that sense of energy and a stream of inspiration move through them when they show up to whatever career path they have chosen, and then to be abundant doing it. And so it's been a big message.
Yeah. So I want to talk about all of the things that you're offering as a teacher to up and coming yoga teachers, life coaches, spiritual teachers. But before that, I want to delve a little bit into your personal journey and who were the teachers and the works that inspired you kind of in the beginning to kind of step into your role as a teacher.
I have had some tremendous teachers come into my world along the way. Early on in my sober recovery, 14 years ago, I was handed a book by my first 12-step sponsor. And she handed me this, she's like, "I just changed your life, kid." And I was like,
I remember hearing about this woman. Is this the cigarette smoker with the big boobs?
Right.
That's
cigarette
right.
smoker with the big boobs.
Yeah.
And I hope that she never watches one of these trainings, because I would make a very bad impression of her. But I don't forget that woman, right? Because she handed me this book, and it was Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love. And it was like, whoa, you get those books and your mind is blown and you're like, wow, this is what I've been waiting for. So Marianne was my guide to become a student of the Metaphysical Text, A Course in Miracles. Then I was guided to, several years later, after being a spiritual teacher for many, many years, I felt like there was this next level. I felt like there was an up-leveling happening for me, and I needed to allow it, but I didn't know how. And I just started to pray for guidance. And one day a friend of mine invited me to a yoga dinner, and you've heard me share this story, but I didn't like yoga, but I like dinner. So I went. And I showed up at this like private yoga class and dinner, and this beautiful 70-year-old woman was with her turban and her white gown and her mala beads, and she was just elevating the room with her energy. And I sat down and started doing these weird things that didn't seem like yoga. I didn't know what the hell it was. I was like shaking my hands and barking. And at the end, I started crying, and I just said, I found my yoga. And it was Kundalini yoga. And the teacher was Gurmukh. And both Marianne and Gurmukh, very good friends of yours. And that became another path on my journey. I think another one of my teachers that I would always want to shout out is my dear friend and mentor in many ways, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who has been gracing me with the ability to continue to write, and has come through in the last 3 books I've written big time, continues to come through because I can feel his presence. Even when I write about it in Spirit Junkie, feeling him standing over the desk.
Yeah.
And I can feel, the last book I wrote, Super Attractor, I can feel him so deeply. So to be able to have the blessing and the gift of these people in my life, and of course, Deepak Chopra has been a great mentor and friend, Louise Hay. So I it's pretty radical to have had all these stacks of books next to my bed and then have had those people become my friends.
Yeah.
My real gift.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly affirming. And I mean, it's actually, Wayne was incredibly influential on me as well. And he said this one thing, I always remember this because I introduced him at Squaw Valley. I got to meet him before he passed away. This, I think, was in 2012 at our Wildest event. And he was already diagnosed with cancer, and his mother had actually just passed. And he just gave, it was like 102 degrees in there. And he gave, I mean, the most articulate, funny talk. I mean, it was so, I've gone back and listened to it probably 100 times. And he said this one thing that's always stuck with me, that the angels you wish to attract into your life will appear when they recognize themselves in you. Mm-hmm. Mm. And and it didn't, I sort of intellectually understood that, but it landed in my heart more in the last couple years. And I think what's interesting about the people that have really influenced you, and this, I think, cuts to one of the questions that I really want to ask you, is that though all of those teachers stayed very close to the work, Wayne stayed very close to the work. Marianne stayed very, very close to the work. And there's this balance between stepping into your career and being very successful and, making a good living, and doing all of the things that one needs to do on social media or PR or all of these things. There's sort of a balance between all of those things and actually staying really close to the work. And I wonder how do you navigate that? And how would you advise people around that?
Well, I see it all as the same thing. So my spiritual practice is always put into practice every single day that I sit down to follow my career path. The same way my spiritual practice is put into practice every time I sit down to nurse my newborn, right? I don't think that there's a spiritual part of our life. I think we have to live a spiritual life. So what I teach is to help people infuse their spiritual principles into every corner of their life, their friendships, their romantic relationships, their children, their personal health and well-being, and then, of course, their career. Because when we follow a career path that is based on a foundation that is grounded in purpose and inspiration and intuitive guidance, then we inevitably will be supported by the universe. Then that the money will flow, the invisible doors will open, there will be a way through every block. So, and that happened, that's for every corner of your life. It's not just your career. So we can't save that just for, our romance, or we can't save that,
right.
that for just for our, personal meditation practice. We have to bring it everywhere. So I use my career path. And this is obviously, you may say, oh, well, Gabby, your career path is as a spiritual teacher, so it's easy. No, this is for any career path, because you could show up every day and you could be the host to love, or you could be the hostage of your ego. And you can bring that light with you wherever you go if you choose to. So I also always have allowed every challenge in my life along the way to be another. I would like to alchemize that idea of challenge and see it instead as an opportunity, and see the obstacle as an opportunity. So if someone is struggling with their career, well, where is the opportunity for growth here? How can you, what those difficult things in our life reveal to us what we need to heal? Yeah. So to answer the question completely, I believe there's a method that I teach in my masterclass called spiritually aligned action. And when we take any action from a place of spiritual alignment, it will be fulfilling, it will be abundant, it will be of the highest good for all. If we take an action from a place of I have to get it done, or I'm controlling, or I'm anxious, or I need to make that money, or I need to, feed that child and get it done, whatever it is, then it's going to feel frenetic. It's going to feel it's out of alignment. It's misaligned. Yeah. So the answer really is that it's all one and the same.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one life. That's interesting. It's not like you're saving the best part of yourself over here, and then you got to go do what you have to do over here. When I was taking the Spirit Junkie masterclass, one thing that I noticed right away about you, and I think in my little tiny humble opinion, one of the reasons why people resonate with you and why you've been so successful is that you're incredibly emotionally honest. And you, in some of the video content, you're confident and joyful and laugh and funny, but you're also pretty vulnerable. I mean, there's parts that, you're on the verge of tears sometimes. And, or that's how I feel. Maybe you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said something to me once that is indelible. I'll never forget this. I actually know where we were when you said it. You said, before you can move anyone else, you have to move yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really stuck with me. And as I've thought about what my message is into the world, and I think about it, when I'm taking a walk, or when I'm meditating, or doing in the shower, or whatever, that has become a bit of a litmus test for me of is this message powerful? Well, let me see, does it move me? And is that a process for you too?
Everything I do. And of course, when it's sharing any kind of content or message in the world that's going to teach. So I always have to come back to what is the intention behind this? And then, does what I'm saying move me? And if it doesn't, I have to reset in some way. But to speak also to the vulnerability on stage, and even in my writing, it's very selfish, Jeff, of me to be that vulnerable, because it feels really good. For me, it's far more dangerous not to be vulnerable. It's far more scary not to be vulnerable. For me. Yeah. I think that vulnerability is sometimes people's most terrifying thing, is to show that vulnerable side. But what they'll come to learn on the other side of it is that it's actually the most freeing way to be. When we got on the call today, and you're like, how are you? And you kind of I think you could tell that something was up with me. And you're like, how are you really? Right? And I said, I have a newborn, I'm having sleep anxiety, and just to get into the truth. And I talk about this a lot, which is just that there's no small talk, there's just big talk in my world. And it's better for me that way.
Yeah.
It feels more connected, and it feels more authentic. And I always tell people that all the world wants from you is your authentic truth. So the more authentic you can be, the more resonant you will be.
Yeah. I've started to use vulnerable or vulnerability as a synonym for courage.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And I mean, and you think about that in almost every context, whether you're a soldier going into war or whether you're stepping on a stage for the first time or for the thousandth time, where you're bearing your soul to something that you might have felt shame about at one time. You know, it is almost every situation that is courage, that requires courage, requires vulnerability.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and I think that that is a key learning for people, because I think it's easy to turn off your authentic self
Mm-hmm.
and phone it in. And I think, you know, one of the keys to, I think, being a great teacher is connection. And I think, you know, in the master class, I think on the personal development side, you do such an amazing job with arming people with the tools to connect.
Yeah, and connect in so many different ways. That's, you know, the first part of the training is really how to hold the space for others, how to express a vulnerable, authentic message in your own unique way, how to make an authentic connection.
Mm-hmm.
And that can come through sharing a story, that can come through writing a book, that can come through giving a talk, that can come through leading a meditation, that can come through sitting in a boardroom and just aligning your energy. So what I teach people is how to get into that alignment and how to know that what that is that they're expressing is coming from that soul-centered, truthful state, and to know the difference between, okay, that came from my higher self, or that came from my ego. And that's actually a question I get all the time from people is, how do you know the difference between your ego and your inner guidance system? And once you've gone through the masterclass, you will know the difference. You will know the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was, I mean, that was a big, oh man, that was like a big mountain to climb for me, because essentially I lived in my ego virtually my entire life. And this was a big thing, you know, from Dr. Dyer of saying like, hey, there's this madman over here that's saying, you know, you are what you have, you are what other people think of you, you are your resume, you are disconnected from others, you are in competition from others, you are disconnected from from God, you know, and this is your ego, you know, and then here you have your infinite soul, your original nature, your divine nature, which is love. And we experience that through a whole variety of ways, through compassion and connection and empathy and all those things. And then the battle is like, you've got this madman over here that you've got to live with all the time. And I'll probably screw it up, but there's a wonderful Indian poet named Rabindranath Tagore. I mean, do you know this guy? He was early 1900s, and he wrote a poem. Indian poet, just amazing. He wrote a poem about a meeting with God, about him going to meet with God. Just, you know, happens to walk out the door and meet with God, just like we all do all the time. I went out on my way to my tryst, but who is this that follows me in the silent dark? Oh, I try to escape him, but I avoid him not. He kicks up the dust with his swagger. He adds his loud voice to every word that I utter. He is my little self, my Lord, and he knows no shame. But I am ashamed to come to thy door in his presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
A beautiful piece of writing,
Mm-hmm.
and a great truth that we are living in this material plane that is dominated by material objects, that is governed by this ego. And the challenge is to see that and to recognize it, but to every day cultivate a way to live from the soul. And if you can teach people, if you can teach me how to do that every day, God bless you. I'll be in good stead.
I think that it's seemingly difficult, but much more simple than we make it. And it's actually the ego that makes it so complex.
Mm-hmm.
The ego wants to convince us that there's no recovery, right? That there's no way out. But the simplicity is to choose again. So, and that's something we have to do all day long. So in each moment when we notice a grievance, or we notice an attack thought, or we notice a moment of anxiety, we have the power to choose again. And so I often say to people, are you choosing to live with the teacher of love or the teacher of fear? So it's a prayer. It's a conscious decision. I choose to see this differently. From the great teachings of Abraham Hicks, it's like, what are you going to give momentum to? Are you going to give momentum to the fearful story? For instance, today, even when I got on the phone with you, I was giving more momentum to the sleep anxiety just by talking about it, and there's nothing wrong with therapy or friendship or just getting things out. I think there's power in that, but you have to be aware of how much power am I giving my stories, and that you can take that power away by choosing again. You can take that power away by leaning into a belief system that feels better. What is the next best feeling thought in this moment? And I'm not suggesting that we bypass the deep inner work, because I am a soldier when it comes to the deep inner work. It's probably what I'm most proud of. I am a warrior. And particularly in the last year, I am willing to go to the places that scare me. But I want to go there and still have fun along the way. And I think that's the key.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually have a more of a fun, lighthearted question, which is just the term spirit junkie. Where did that come from?
It's a cute story. It's a good story. So I wrote my second book, which is titled Spirit Junkie, but it didn't have a title yet. I was writing the book and I had sold it without a title. Mm-hmm. And it was really kind of a memoir. It's a memoir. It's a spiritual self-help memoir that I wrote at 28 years old. I had to tell my whole story then, but there's obviously so much more unfolded. I was teaching at the time small group coaching workshops. There was a young girl called Daisy in the workshop who was about 16 at the time. She came every week, just so lit up and so empowered by the stuff that she was learning. Reminds me a little bit of your daughter now. Yeah. And Phoebe, she's like a little Phoebe. And she would come into these workshops and she was so lit up. And one afternoon she came in and she was telling us a story about what happened the week earlier when she left the coaching group. She said, you know what, I left the coaching group and I was just so lit up and high on my own supply and just feeling so supercharged. And I went through the park and I walked and I was staring at the sky and I was just so spiritually connected. And I just looked at her and I'm like, you're like a spirit junkie.
Yes.
And then everybody in the room looked at me and their jaws dropped. And I just said, I'm like, that's it. That is the title of my book. It has since become a major part of my branding of the work that I do. And obviously this training, because the training Spirit Junkie Masterclass is for self-proclaimed spirit junkies. It's for people who, it doesn't matter what career they're in, but the one thing they have in common is their pursuit of spiritual awareness and connection and their desire to share that in their own way. So,
That's great. Isn't it wonderful when, I think in French they call it coup de foudre, which is I think that means sort of like lightning or something. But Totally. It's just that moment. I mean, I had the same thing with Wanderlust. We sat around I was in a lot of bands growing up, and I had this crappiest band names of all time. That's another discussion for another webinar. But and we had the worst names for the festival. I mean, just the worst. I mean, embarrassing. And then I was just sitting there on the couch one day. Micah hadn't even been born yet. My two other daughters were crawling on me, and it was just like, boom, Wanderlust. I think I know what it means. And you know, and then off you go. And you know, we've been, you know, lucky, but also put in a lot of time into understanding what makes a great brand. And so let's talk specifically a little bit about the course, the Spirit Junkie Masterclass, because this thing is, you can only do it once a year.
And well, actually, it only comes out once a year, yeah.
Okay.
But once you're in, you have lifetime access. So you can, you can always do it. Yeah.
So yeah, we're so excited to partner with you this year on your Spirit Junkie Masterclass, and to make it super special, we've actually added in a bunch of amazing Commune stuff on top of it. So including Marianne Williamson's Teaching the Teachers course. I know how influential she's been for you, as we've talked about. Also, for the first time, special access to me over 3 sessions, as I'll share some tips and techniques on how to build your mindful business. I'll be drawing on my experience with Wanderlust and Commune to help you navigate building your purpose-driven business. Also, the Wellness Masterclass with our dear partner, Brendan Burchard, Yoga for All, which is a fantastic foundational beginners yoga class with Adrian Mishler, just a wonderful dear friend and yogi out of Austin, Texas. And last but not least, a really important social impact course called Unwinding Prejudice with Evelyn Carter, which examines some of our own implicit biases. So we're bundling all of that stuff in on top of the Spirit Junkie Masterclass. Just go to onecommune.com/spiritjunkie, and all of that information will be in there, and we'll go on this amazing journey together. And you know, there's a lot that goes into creating a purpose-driven business, and you know, you've built your whole career around that you can actually do well by doing good. And that those things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, as you said before, when you're living one integrated life, that you can create positive change in the world while also making having a really abundant life and making a good living.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the things that you do so well in the course and just in general is talk about money.
Yeah.
Because this is a big deal. My wife's a yoga teacher. She opened a yoga studio in 2002 at Ground Zero, right after that all went down. And there weren't a lot of yoga studios at that juncture. There wasn't one on every corner in a juice bar and all this stuff. They were fewer and farther between. And it was hard for her and for a lot of other yoga teachers, because that's the world that I know very well, to square this idea that they were doing something good, but then they should also be paid well for that.
Yeah.
And this is, I know in some of the videos,
in the training,
and some of the videos that people have seen, hopefully already, as the lead-in. I know you talk a little bit about that, but can you give us maybe like a little window into the money issue?
Yeah, well, you know, we created the Spirit Junkie Masterclass training for spiritual people who wanted to bring more business mindset and financial freedom to their spirituality and bring that spirituality into their business. And then business people who wanted to bring more spiritual principles into the career that they were already in. So it was seeing folks from both sides. There were the common theme was that they all identified as being on a spiritual path of their own understanding, and that they wanted to be abundant, inspiring others by doing what inspired them. But the common theme that I've seen throughout a lot of the students that have come through my training is this fear of financial abundance. And so some of the stories I hear are who am I to be great? Who am I to have success, right? Or who am I to make money for my healing service-driven work? And a lot of hangups around that. And I bust the myths in this training that it's not right to be abundant in a spiritual or wellness related business. That is a myth that I bust, and I break it down fully and completely so that so people can walk away with the confidence. And truly what this is a confidence training. Under the underlying through line throughout the entire training, while you're going to get great spiritual tools and personal growth opportunity, while you're going to get the nuts and bolts of how to build a business and how to be abundant, how to make money, and how to share your message in an empowering way, the most important thing you'll walk away with is the confidence to take action.
Yes.
This is because I identify as a real action-oriented person. I mean, look, I wrote 7 books in 8 years, right? So I take action. But what I hope for my students is that they will walk away with this great spiritual kick in the ass to feel that commitment to themselves, to their work, to the mission-driven work that they're here to do, and to say yes and to take action on their dreams. Because without that commitment, without that confidence adjustment, we can't do it in an impactful way. Yeah. So when it comes to the money conversation, it's a really big topic throughout the training. There's an entire module related to it. And it's really about healing our relationship to financial fear and having and cultivating financial freedom, becoming unapologetic about our abundance, learning not just the hows to, the marketing methods and the communication techniques and the ways to earn, but more importantly, shifting our perception of what it means to be abundant and healing the blocks and the limiting beliefs that hold us back from attracting more abundance into our life.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is such a huge piece of it because, if people are going to go and do the work that's going to change, that's going to inspire people, they need, they need to balance the care of others with self-care.
Totally. And I think that there's a big message too, which is like, money is just another form of energetic currency.
Yeah.
And so we have to recognize that the universe is like this ever-present faucet that when you turn it on, it will flow. And you can turn it on in every corner of your life. And the only reason it's not flowing is because there's some fear-based belief system that's blocking it. And so everything in our life is backed by the beliefs that we have. Every single experience of life. And so money is no different. So if the money is flowing, that's because we're energetically and we're clear in our mind about it and we're energetically at peace with it. And if there's a block there, then there's some healing, mental reconditioning that has to be adjusted in order to allow that flow to occur. And that's what this training will offer people.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the confidence that you're providing, I mean, it goes right back to fear and the ego. I mean, and this is something that's been a riddle in my own personal life forever, which is it's not just the fear of failure. It's actually the fear of success. And both of those are essentially tied to the same thing, which is fear of judgment. Like what if I try this thing and it doesn't work? Or what if I try this thing and it does work? Do I really want all of those things? Mm-hmm. And they're both tied to, this need that we have to be liked, to connect, to be accepted. And at least, this has been one of my big processes that I've had to work through is just like, and again, is recognizing that there is this madman called the ego that essentially holds that fear of judgment that I am what other people think of me.
Yeah.
And that to have the tools to gain the confidence to overcome that notion that I am not what people think of me. I am not that. I am eternal gentleness. I am love. I am compassion. I am wisdom sometimes. And I am here to bring that to the world with every breath. And when I'm living fully in that space and with that confidence, I am channeling the creative power of the universe. And and everybody has that power.
Yep. I think that the Abraham Hicks says there's only a stream of well-being, and you're either blocking it or you're not, right? So really this is about unblocking that stream.
Yeah.
And when we do, we can have that freedom to fully express the great truths of what we know to be real for us, to do it freely without fear of judgment, and to be abundant in the practice of speaking that truth. Because the universe will support you when you live in the authentic truth of what you're here to bring forth. It's just the law. We have to accept that.
Yeah.
So, and we have to accept that in every area of our life.
And so now you've minted, I don't want to use that word. A lot of people have gone through this masterclass. I mean, give me a range.
Thousands of people have gone.
Thousands of people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do you see that as a central part of your legacy? And I mean, I'm starting to think a little bit about legacy in my own life, Oftentimes that's very baked into, my children. And you're a mom too. But in terms of our own contribution to society, and what that means for our legacy, how important is that for you?
Yeah, big time. I think it's a huge part of my legacy, because what I can look back and say is I created teachers, and I didn't create them. I inspired them. I told them a story and they took action. Right. Mm-hmm. But I was there to inspire them to step out into the world in the way that they feel called to. So I am probably one of the things I'm most proud of in my career is creating this training, because it has spawned books. It has spawned, 7-figure businesses that have been really, really impactful in the world. It has spawned charitable organizations. It has spawned, probably what's most important about it is that it has spawned radical personal growth and transformation and healing in people. Because when they have that, when they take the first 4 modules of this training seriously, they go through a spiritual deep dive and release any of the blocks in the way of stepping into their power and their confidence and their abundance. And then the second half of the training, the final 4 modules, are about how to take that confidence and use it to bring forth the work that you're here to do and make money doing it. So and I love that you picked up on the fact that the unique part of this training is that it's equal parts personal growth and equal parts business. And so letting people walk away with that confidence is probably one of the greatest contributions I have given in my career. Yeah. And I have people all the time coming to me saying, I'm a masterclass alumni and I went on and did this, and I'm a masterclass alumni, I overcame this to do this. And it's deeply moving to me.
Yeah. I mean, how gratifying, right?
Oh yeah. I have a whole stack of books. I have a bookshelf just for the books that my masterclass students give me. Amazing.
That's so amazing. Well, listen, I am such a supporter. I am so happy to be partnering in our way with you. You've always been a teacher for me, and just to see you continue to grow, to see you just be really authentic and real, and like continue to tackle really tricky, tough issues in your own personal life and allow people to see themselves in your story. That's super brave. I know what a lot of those stories are, and you're very courageous. So I'm such a willing and happy supporter of you. So, I would just encourage everybody who's watching and who's listening, because this is also a podcast, to go to onecommune.com, Spirit Junkie. You'll see everything there around the Spirit Junkie Masterclass that will give you both, again, the confidence, all the personal tools and the professional tools to bring your best self and your best teacher into the world around you. And you'll get so much more, and you'll get a bunch of amazing Commune content as well, including our Marianne Williamson Teaching the Teachers course, our I think we're the Wellness Masterclass with Brendan. Is that right? The whole list is right here. Yeah. Some personal business coaching with this guy right here.
Which I'm signing myself up for. I want that.
Now the pressure is on. Also access to our Yoga for All course with Adrienne Mishler, who's a dear, dear friend and wonderful yoga teacher from Austin, Texas, who's really brought yoga to people that often, like, honestly need it the most, but get it the least. Not people necessarily like in LA and San Francisco and New York, people all over in the middle of the country and all around the world that don't have access to yoga studios on the regular. So she's just super inspirational. There's also a course that we produced with an amazing woman named Evelyn Carter called Unwinding Prejudice, which is about going and looking at wound up patterns in your own life to bear witness to implicit bias and how to unwind some of those patterns, which, honestly, in today's environment and political climate is incredibly important, that we take a really hard look at ourselves and not just a hard look at everybody else around us and, point the finger, but look at our own built-in implicit biases. So I'm really proud and excited to kind of create this package that I think has a lot of value connected with your Spirit Junkie Masterclass. And thank you for shepherding me through my first Gabinar. You've been very kind.
And there's something I should also mention that we did differently this year is what this masterclass is actually a compilation of 5 years of live weekend trainings. Because what I've found is we have to always do what we do. We have to always offer what we do best. And what I do best is live. You're always it's always nice to be in front of a camera and just teach something. But for me, the best way for me to teach is live. So I took the live trainings and I amortized them over an 8-module course and created this really bite-sized package of how to take in the content, but feel like you're in the room with me. But so many of my digital students have gone through the training and been like, but I just wish I could be with you live. Like, how could I be with you live? So this year, what we did was we're giving away a live day event that has the same value as the digital course. So when you get the digital course, you get a full Spirit Junkie live with me in New York. And you can choose to attend live, or you can choose to attend on live stream if you're not available that weekend. But that event is the best gift we've ever offered with this bonus gift with our training, because we kept hearing the call of people saying, well, I want to bring it to life. Like, I want to be in the room with you. Or I want to see you in that real live moment. So we're gathering.
Yeah. And that there is no replacement for that in real life experience. And, I've been fortunate enough to be in the room as an attendee or as a guest many times when you have spoken. And in fact,
the host.
Well, sometimes. Actually, on my drive over here to the studio this morning, I listened to the very first time I ever heard you speak publicly, which was at Wanderlust Stratton in 2013. I think it was the first time that you came there. Yeah. And it was funny because I remember you were saying that you were kind of 8 years sober. And I was like, wait a minute, she's way more than that. And then I was like, that's 2013. That's a freaking long time ago already. Yeah. And I think you had just gone through your Kundalini training at that juncture. Yes. And you led some incredible live mantras and and live meditations, and with music, and you just, rock the house. And then that was also the first time I'd heard about your connection with A Course in Miracles, your kind of, your connection to Marianne, and a little bit about your journey. So it was really, really fun to revisit you in 2013 and feel that energy. And then obviously so many more times that we've been together in around the world, in Lake Tahoe and in Los Angeles and other places. And I will
a lot more to come.
I will attend many more. So
many more.
God bless you, Gabby, for all the work that you do.
Right back at you. I love you.
You bring so much light to people. I've also stood in line while people are waiting to get into your live events. And just the energy that people have while they're waiting to come and see you is so palpable.
You're making me cry a little.
It is, but it's fun. I actually love that experience of actually the lead up, and seeing the excitement, and people that have waited that know you from your masterclass, from your online work, from your books, but then have that window to experience you in real life. Oh man, that energy, and that electricity is just so intense. And so I think adding in that in real life experience is key.
You're making me cry a little bit, because when you said earlier, what I taught you was like, be moved by your message, and your message will move the masses. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the message here for Masterclass. And I've stepped away from speaking for quite some time throughout the end of my pregnancy. And then obviously in the fourth trimester, being at home with my son. And so now I'm gearing up so I always say, like, I go in big before I go out big. And now I'm ready to go out big. And you just like took me back to the line outside, and it moves me. And I don't mean to get so emotional, but it's, when you care that much about the work that you do, you can think your way into that moment in any moment, right? It's like you literally brought me onto the line outside of Wanderlust, everybody standing in the sun waiting to get their books, I know. It just makes me feel that connection even in this moment. And so it's like a teachable moment as we end this, is like, if you can feel your way into whatever it is, the moment that you've experienced or a moment that you desire, that's manifesting. That's co-creation. So thank you for unconsciously guiding me back into the magnitude of what it means to me to have the privilege of being a teacher.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you.
It's my great pleasure. And I'll lend you a trench coat and some glasses with a mustache, so you can wait in line with me incognito and get a little bit of that buzz.
Totally. Thanks,
thank you, Gabby. I love you.
I love you.